For Progressive Voices, I'm John Sinton, and this is a turning point. Today, the broligarchs. The new oligarchs, primarily techies with a few fossil fuel billionaires thrown in, are rich beyond the dreams of avarice. They are richer than anyone in the history of the world. They are so different from you and me, they might as well be, as the author Michael Wolff calls them, Martians. We can also call them the broligarchs. If there is one consistent thing about them, it is that as far as they are concerned, society's rules and laws do not apply to them. When you have a fleet of transoceanic aircraft or a $300 million super yacht, you are a citizen of the broligarchy, not any individual country. Your superficial public allegiance may be to your country of citizenship, but in truth, you are loyal to your money and your power. In fact, after a certain dollar amount, the money becomes meaningless, and at that point, it's only the power that matters. Are most people aware of or even paying attention to the wholesale slaughter of so many of our rules and agencies? The Pew Research firm says we are, but I don't know. Every day I talk to people who are surprised to learn that the Naval Academy has banned hundreds of books, or that the Air Force has purged a website honoring the first female Thunderbird pilot. I am, on occasion, lifted by the spirit of camaraderie and fellowship emanating from the public protests, like the Saturday, April 5th hands-off protest march, where we saw 20,000 ordinary citizens march in downtown San Diego alone. Nationwide, Saturdays of protest continue with crowds estimated to be in the millions. These marches are reminiscent of the Vietnam War protests in that participants, mostly baby boomers, cite de rigueur chants and carry clever signs like, "Dear Jesus, please protect me from your followers," and "Porsche fast, Ferrari faster, Tesla fascist." More dissent can be found online, where Substack, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok host funny, frightening, engaging commentaries and videos from millennials and Gen Zers. It turns out that protests are tailored to age groups. Young people are online, old people are in the streets. The stakes are high. Everyone, citizen or not, fears being renditioned to El Salvador. Music provided the soundtrack for our lives in the 60s and 70s, but it is way too fragmented to save us this time. Legacy media is toothless because it, too, has fragmented into a million disparate pieces, and the world has moved on from it. Together, the legacy protests and the online ones are our best hope to have an impact, but the broligarchy is unlikely to listen because they are in it for themselves. Jon Ossoff, the Democrat from Courage, and Cory Booker, the Democrat from Stamina, or the tiny handful of Republican senators with enough sack to tell the truth, might help. W's Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld was right about only one thing as he led us into the last huge American foreign policy blunder, the war in Iraq, by saying, "You go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you had." And sure, I'd rather we had a majority of the Republicans in the House and Senate willing to stand up for truth and the rule of law, but we don't. I'd rather we had a Democratic Party that is not fossilized and one that has a clue about modern media and has the gumption to stand up as Senators Ossoff and Booker do. But we don't. We are all we have, and we have to start somewhere. Nothing less than the destruction of the social safety net that began with FDR and Social Security will satisfy the broligarchs. They are in league with a virulent strain of regressives whose fever dream of ending the New Deal has languished in the background for 80 years. Certain extreme groups and individuals have mounted attacks before. Think about the John Birch Society, for instance. But they have always been turned back by both the common sense and general goodness that Americans have been famous for until now. The Koch brothers utilized the Citizens United Supreme Court ruling that paved the way for unlimited money entering politics, and they spent big on actual conservative agendas. But they respected the rule of law and colored inside the lines. They fought for the long-time conservative goals of reducing government spending and regulation. They did so without challenging courts to dare to oppose them, and they obeyed court orders when lawsuits went against them. The broligarchs have no such qualms. They fight against the rule of law and against average Americans, and they're fighting against the reality of a shrunken globe as they rail against globalism. Wow, listen to me. I'm pining for the good old days of the Koch brothers, all because the bad new days of the Tech brothers have brought us to the brink. For Progressive Voices, I'm John Sinton.
Progressive Voices' John Sinton has written a continuing series called A Turning Point that touches on politics, culture, and media. You can hear the short essays in the on-demand section of progressivevoices.com and on the PV app.
Thanks for listening and for your continued financial support of the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn. Our goal is to make this the best progressive listening experience available. We're asking you to help us by continuing your support with a financial contribution. Please go to progressivevoices.com and click the Support PV button. That's it, progressivevoices.com. Thanks.
PV brings you the best progressive audio and video in one free stream. Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Randy Rhodes, David Packman, Brad Friedman, and more. Search Progressive Voices on the TuneIn app. Download the free Progressive Voices app or go to progressivevoices.com.